Melanie Trump had never been one to shy away from ambition. From the moment she stepped into the public eye, she had been driven by a relentless determination to succeed, to support her husband Donald through his political journey, and to build a legacy that would endure for generations. But lately, as the intensity of Donald's political campaign grew, Melanie found herself struggling with an unsettling sense of isolation. The constant media scrutiny, the endless events, and the rising tension in Washington left her with little time to breathe, let alone to connect with herself or those around her. The world seemed to move faster than she could keep up, and she was left in the wake of it all. One morning, she sat alone in her expansive kitchen, the soft morning light filtering through the windows. Her cup of coffee, warm and comforting, sat untouched on the counter as she stared into the distance. Her thoughts were clouded with uncertainty, a strange emptiness that she couldn't quite shake. "Is this really what I want?" she muttered to herself, more to the silence than to anyone in particular. But as the words left her lips, she realized something. She hadn't just thought it, she had spoken it aloud. "Would I have been happier if I had never come to America?" Melanie asked herself, her voice barely above a whisper. It was a question that had been lingering in the back of her mind for weeks, but now it hung in the air, waiting for an answer. Just as the words left her mouth, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. Alex Garcia, the 45-year-old housekeeper and personal assistant responsible for much of the domestic maintenance, entered the room. His movements were quiet but efficient as he began to clean the countertop. The sound of the vacuum hummed softly in the background, but his attention was drawn to Melanie, who still stood in a daze, her mind spinning from the question she had just posed. "Did you say something, Mrs. Trump?" Alex asked, pausing his cleaning and glancing at her with a curious expression. Melanie blinked, caught off guard by the question. She had almost forgotten that she wasn't alone. Her initial instinct was to brush off the comment, to ignore it, but something about Alex's presence made her pause. Perhaps it was the sincerity in his voice, or the fact that for the first time in days, someone had actually acknowledged her thoughts out loud. "I was just thinking," Melanie said hesitantly, shaking her head as if to dismiss the idea. "I asked myself if I would have been happier if I had never come to America." Alex paused, setting down the cleaning cloth in his hand. He looked at her for a moment, his expression thoughtful but calm. "Mrs. Trump, I've been working here for quite a while now, and I've seen a lot. More than you might think. And I think I understand a little bit about what you're feeling," he began, his voice steady but compassionate. Melanie raised an eyebrow, surprised by his insight. She hadn't expected him to respond at all, let alone offer a reflection of his own. She had always seen Alex as the quiet, efficient worker who went about his day without much interaction. But there was something different today. Alex continued, his gaze unwavering. "Life doesn't always turn out the way we imagine. We all have moments when we question our choices, wondering if we could have taken a different path. But let me tell you something, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, the most important thing is to understand what you've built for yourself. You've made a life, a meaningful one, even if it feels lonely at times. There's a lot of people who would give anything to be in your position, to have what you have. It's easy to forget that sometimes." Melanie stared at Alex in disbelief. She wasn't used to people speaking so openly, especially not about her life. His words, though simple, hit her like a tidal wave, washing over her thoughts and drowning out the doubts that had been swirling in her mind. She thought about it for a moment. The life she had built, was it really so bad? Sure, it was lonely at times. The pressure of her public role, the expectations placed upon her, the absence of true connection, these things had made her question her choices. But was that enough to overshadow everything else? Alex spoke again, breaking her reverie. "It's easy to focus on what you don't have, what's missing, but you have a lot more than most. Sometimes the loneliness comes not from having too little, but from not knowing how to fill the space inside yourself. You have to find purpose beyond what's expected of you. Do what you want to do, whether it's creating something, helping others, or just enjoying the simple moments of life. That's when you'll truly feel fulfilled." Melanie stood there, her mind racing as Alex's words settled in. He was right. She had spent so much of her life focused on what she had to do, on the roles she had to play, the expectations she had to meet, that she had forgotten to ask herself what she truly wanted, what brought her joy outside of her public identity. "Do you really believe that?" she asked, her voice softer now, filled with a mix of curiosity and vulnerability. "Absolutely," Alex said, with a small but confident smile. "I have seen people who have everything and still feel empty, and others who have nothing and feel more alive than anyone. It's not about the external stuff, Mrs. Trump. It's about what's inside you." Melanie felt a weight lift off her shoulders as Alex spoke. His words, coming from someone who didn't live in the same world as her, held a kind of clarity that she had never heard before. For the first time in a long while, she felt something inside her stir. "I guess I've been so caught up in everything else," she said slowly. "In what others think, in what I should do, that I forgot to consider what I want. Maybe I've been ignoring myself." Alex nodded. "That's what happens sometimes. We all get lost in the noise. But when you stop and take a breath, you realize you have everything you need right here," he said, tapping his chest with a smile. "The rest is just extra." Melanie smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes for the first time in days. She realized that, despite all the stress, the public attention, and the overwhelming pressure, she had something priceless: her own life, her choices, and the chance to make something new out of them. "Thank you, Alex," she said quietly, her voice filled with a new sense of appreciation. "I didn't expect to hear something so important today. You've made me think about things differently." Alex shrugged, his humble nature apparent. "I'm just saying what I know. We all have the power to make our lives meaningful. Sometimes we just need a little reminder." As he returned to his work, Melanie stood still, lost in thought. The question that had been haunting her moments ago no longer seemed so important. Instead, she realized that the real question was not whether she could have been happier elsewhere, but whether she could choose to be happy with what she had here and now. In that simple, unexpected conversation, Melanie had found the clarity she had been searching for. Sometimes life's most valuable lessons came from the most unlikely sources. And sometimes it took a moment of stillness, a brief conversation with another person, to remind us of what really matters. And as Melanie reflected on Alex's words, she couldn't help but smile. Just maybe, she was ready to start again, not just for the world, but for herself. Have you ever experienced a moment so powerful, so full of love and kindness, that it made you stop and wonder if something greater was at work? Maybe your story will be the insight that inspires someone else. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and share. It only takes a moment, but kindness, just like faith, has a way of spreading further than we can ever imagine.